Welcome back to the Oddity Shop, our little oddballs. This is the podcast where we tell you stories about the odd, creepy, weird, bizarre, and those who shall not be named.
Oh,
apparently. Oh, that's a new one.
I like it.
I'm your curator, Zachary, sitting here with the other halfway decent curator, Kara.
Hello.
What's going on in your world, as if anybody cares?
Okay, so Ash from Morbid recommended a book. And so I was like, oh, okay. And it was called So Thirsty. And it's by Rachel Harrison. And it's a vampire book. And so I was like, oh, cool. I'll read it. But, you know, I don't really have time to sit down and read. So I listened to it. So I don't think it counts as reading. But I listened to it and it was really good. So for those that like books like that, I am not a smut book person. It's just not my jam. I don't need very smut. It's just, that's not what I'm into. So I was kind of hoping that this wasn't going to be like a vampire smut, but it's not. It was actually pretty good. It was still a love story, but it was really cool. It was about being turned into a vampire and the crazy effects of it. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So then...
Effects on the libido?
No, the lust of blood and murder. So I listened to that and I really liked it. So then I bought another book from her called Such Sharp Teeth because it's a werewolf book.
This is how you slowly get sucked in. If you start reading Stephanie Goddamn Meyer.
I don't think I will, but maybe. No, I really liked this Rachel Harrison, and she has a whole bunch of books. I think one's on like a witch, like stuff like that. So I plan on like listening to them all because they were just good. They weren't long ones. They're nothing crazy. It just like zones you out into, you know.
This reminds me of a time I went into a bookstore with Julia. Amazing bookstore.
Girl that I once knew.
So it's like one of those like the floor creaks every step. It's just like,
oh yes,
a labyrinth of shelves. Okay.
Dusty.
So I was like, hey, do you guys have like a paranormal and occult section? He goes, yeah, it's back in that corner.
When was
so I
this?
walk over there about a year ago, probably.
Oh, okay.
And I get back there and I do find the paranormal and occult. Like when I say shelf, I'm not even talking shelf top to bottom. I mean like half of a shelf. Okay. But it was surrounded by 3 full floor to ceiling shelves of paranormal romance.
Oh, no.
I didn't realize there was such a draw to that.
No. I can't. That's not my thing.
Okay, so while you're reading your smut books,
It's not a smut book.
Well, it seems like a gateway to smut.
I would rather have a gateway drug into real hard drugs than read smut books.
It'll happen.
No.
I've been thinking about plants. So, you know, I've been doing some researching of my bedroom and some other things.
Wait. Do you remember when Kris Jenner was trying to spell like zhuzh? How do you spell zhuzh?
Oh, I actually don't know. I actually almost said that to somebody at work today. Well, like, I mean, not how do you spell it? I almost typed it to somebody in Slack.
But how do you spell it?
I think the closest I've seen is JHUZ, but I don't know. But anyways, the zhuzhing has been happening, and now I have a couple empty. So I'm not going to replace all the plants that died this last year. I've been going crazy. I've had way too many plants. It's been stressing me out. So I'm downsized, but now I have the perfect setup and I know which exact 5 plants I want.
Where'd you put the plants you got rid of? Or they just died?
So I had quite a few that died this last year because last summer I just didn't do my best. Now, the ones that I have placed are all doing really well because everything that I have placed is actually in a place where that plant should be.
So when you say you downsized, you mean they died?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but my orchids are now where they should be and they rebloom.
Yes.
And like, so now I know specifically what 5 plants I want based on the lighting as I've learned now. So I'm not going to go back to 40. I'm going to keep it to like 25 to 30.
I think I
know exactly. I know. Well, your house has way more natural light than mine.
I do have a lot of
natural
light. I'm sorry. So what 5 plants, Zachary?
I realized I used to have like 4 or 5 spider plants and I don't have any now. So I'm putting a spider plant back in.
Okay.
And I need a couple like philodendron style vines that are low light vines.
Okay.
And then
I have a ton of cuttings going so you can.
Okay, perfect. I do still want, even though every time I get one, I don't know how to do it, but a pilea.
What is that one?
Pilea. It's the one. It's like a stalk with a saucer on the end, like an out of the water lily pad, but they have a bunch of them.
Oh, okay.
Chinese money plant is.
Oh, yeah. I have a couple of those. Yeah, so those can be hard.
I know. Well, so I finally had a God, I'm blanking on the scientific name of it now, and it's one you and I, the alocasia. My alocasia is doing fantastic. The arrowhead.
Oh, God, I'm so bad with the names of these plants. I have so many plants, but I don't fucking know the names.
So I think I'm gonna get some more of those.
Okay.
But the other thing is, and I don't even know if I told you this, I paid off my car 2 years early, and that's my good thing.
You did not tell me this.
I paid off my car.
Oh my God. I'm so proud of y'all.
I am lean free.
Oh God. I am lean, clean. Something.
Driving machine.
There you go. Oh my God.
All right. Those are my exciting things for you.
Wow. All right. Well, those were better than my books.
No. You know what? I was going to tell a story about something you and I did last night, but I'm going to hold on to this one.
That's so funny because I was just going to tell that story, but then I was like, maybe not.
Let's hold on to it because I think we're going to have an update for it. Y'all, I'm trying to scheme my way into a house that I think is haunted. I have no idea. I just walked by it the other day. I'm gonna really show my crazy, and I need you all just to root for me.
The most unhinged human last night when we were talking for like an hour and a half. The most unhinged. No,
you just saw my real estate side, and this is the level of things I have access to and creeping that we do in. It wasn't even
just for that though. Just in general, you were very unhinged last night.
I've been on very little sleep this week. Okay, let's open. Do you have?
No. My question
figure it out.
Okay. Did you sage?
Oh, God. I know what we're talking about this week, too. And I would love to say yes.
Okay. Maybe everybody, if you have some sage, be saging it up.
Sage spray. We need to buy our listeners, at least the Patreon, some sage spray for all the freaking
shit
horrible energy we bring into your house.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about it. That's our question. Shop's open. Let's go. Sorry about it.
Sorry about it.
Sorry. Ooh, yeah, because we're going to have to pretend to be Canadian soon.
Okay. We're now going to, from last episode, if you didn't listen to last episode, I guess you could listen to this one first because it's just a comparison, but you probably should start at last episode because we talked about the Wendigo, the Windy Boy. And this episode, we are now talking about the commonly mistaken or confused for or intertwined thought of the Skinwalker.
Bum, bum, bum.
As a refresher, we are going to call them flesh pedestrians.
And disclaimer, nobody will be mad if you fall off this episode because talking about them can draw them.
Yes, so if you leave, I'm good. All right.
We'll miss you. See you next week.
Who knows? Might be crazier next week.
Oh, God.
All right. They say there's a name you shouldn't speak lightly. Ye Nald Loshi, the one who walks on all fours.
Ew.
Among the Navajo, it marks a being of dark power feared not for what it is, but for what it used to be. A skinwalker, once human, now something else, something twisted by forbidden rites, lurking in the form of beasts and shadows. Flesh pedestrians can shape-shift themselves as different animals, making them easily undetectable. And I'm not sure what's less terrifying.
Both equally.
Is it more terrifying to see it or for it to be shape-shift into an animal that you just normally see?
Oh, well, I would say for the fact of being able to ignore it.
So if you think about...
if I didn't know.
But okay, so I'm going to backtrack a second. So if you think about the Windy Boy, what that presents as, okay, that's very terrifying.
Terrifying.
Or an animal that you think is just an innocently animal as a flesh pedestrian. Which one is more terrifying? They're actually both very terrifying. It would be terrifying to see a visual of that crazy. Oh, I don't know.
I will say though, here's the deal. At least with the Windy Boy, if you see it, you know exactly what you're dealing with. Where I've seen some...
You think?
videos of
yeah,
like, and you know, most times the videos on YouTube and Reddit and stuff, like I count them off, but I've seen some videos of the flesh pedestrians where it's like it presents as something at first and then just slightly alters or changes, and that to me is horrifying because then you don't trust anything.
Yeah, it reminds me of the not deer.
Yeah,
in a way.
Well, that's I think how we got on this originally of saying
kind of, yeah.
If it slightly shifted, I actually think to me that's more terrifying to see the fleshy than the Wendy. Okay, Kara, so we recently came across Haunters Against Hate, the pro-LGBT 501c3 nonprofit group, and we have to share their event. Are you looking for the most unique and totally accepting event of the year?
Then get ready for Haunters Against Hate, the Event 3 Season of the Witch.
It is a one-of-a-kind convention that blends all things scary and spooky while promoting inclusivity, acceptance, and community.
You'll get a reunion of artists from the TV show Face Off, plus makeup and cosplay competitions, a full hall of vendors, and incredible drag shows.
And don't miss the annual Haunters Against Hate Awards, workshops, seminars, haunt excursions, and my favorite part, live goats. I don't know why they're there, but I'm here for it.
Oh, and did we mention Edgar Allan Poe might be lurking around?
Oh, well, it all happens August 8th through 10th at the Crowne Plaza, Louisville Airport in Louisville, Kentucky.
Grab your tickets, book your hotel, and get all the details at HAHtheevent.com. That's HAHtheevent.com.
Because hate is the scariest thing of all. Link is down below in the show notes. Get your tickets today. Goodbye.
Bye. Yeah, I kind of agree. Okay, but I think that we might be able to all also picture the image that is a lot of times referenced with a flesh pedestrian. And it's a creature that's on all fours, but its body is like a U shape. And I think you know what I'm talking about, Zach. It's very creepy. Yeah. It's like fleshy, pinky tones. It's like all fours. Its body is U shaped, but its head is protruding out. Is that a good description of what I'm trying to?
Yeah.
Do you know what picture I'm talking about?
I know exactly the picture you're talking about. It's like very Backrooms-esque. I would say Google it.
Ew. So I don't know if that's very like a new age, like now representation of it. I would say if you're going more with the Navajo, it's more of just like presents itself as an animal.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Navajo speaks of two paths of a practitioner may walk. One of healing and one of no harm. Those who learn to use spiritual forces for the good of others become medicine men, using their knowledge to heal, protect, and guide their people. But there are others who turn toward darkness. These are witches, followers of the witchery way. They are said to work with death itself, using human remains to craft tools of harm, bones shaped into instruments, flesh and blood brewed into potions meant to curse, wound, or even kill. In certain tales, witches were not always evil. They once walked the path of healers and spiritual guides, using their gifts to aid others. But somewhere along the way, they turned from the light and embraced the shadows to become a skinwalker. One must undergo a secret and forbidden rite hidden from the eyes of the world. It is said that to gain the dark power of transformation, the ability to take the form of the beast, a witch must commit the ultimate betrayal, the killing of a close blood relative, often a sibling.
Okay.
What the fuck? What? Give me your thoughts. I
hate these things, and I think these are more real than not more real, more prevalent than what we talked about last week. I think I've possibly experienced one.
Well, so did I. We'll talk about that at the end.
These ones make me a little bit more uncomfortable, which is for the okay. My brain is still going on some things I want to hold my comments for, though. So yeah, sure. You keep going.
All right. Skinwalkers are most often seen in the forms of wolves, foxes, coyotes, cougars, dogs, or bears. So again, think of the creature that walks on all fours. But their power allows them to take the shape of nearly any creature. They choose their form with purpose, which is so creepy to me. So selecting for speed, stealth, strength, or sharp claws and teeth, If chased or cornered, they can shift again, slipping away as another beast, which is so cool. It's very cool to me because I wish I could just... but their gifts don't really end with transformation. A flesh pedestrian can paralyze a victim with a single gaze, bending their own will to its own. It's said they can read thoughts, spread illness, bring death, and ruin homes with dark magic. They commend the night's creatures, owls, wolves, and worse, and some say they can summon the dead or even rise them from their graves.
Oh. That's horrible.
So it's weird because I think that, to me, before I was kind of researching these two entities, I guess, if we will, I kind of thought that the flesh pedestrian was more commonly known, but it's actually not. It's the Wendigo is more commonly known from people, but I think now some of like the paranormal researchers, investigators that you and I know of, they've been going to a lot of places that have more flesh pedestrian sightings or things. So that's, I think, why I thought it was more prominent.
I think there's two things that have helped it. I think one is in the last, I would say, decade, we've had a huge resurgence of Appalachian lore becoming way more prevalent in the paranormal society and regular society as well, right? Like a lot more of those stories coming out being told, and these are very common out there. I also think we have TV shows like
Skinwalker
The
Ranch.
Exactly, which has nothing to do with it, but it has put them from being something more native and cultural to being more in the spotlight. So I think they're kind of been having their moment.
Yeah. Flesh pedestrians are feared for their potential to bring sickness, death, and misfortune to those they target. Like I said before, because they present mostly as animals, it's hard to detect. Yet, some say there are signs to watch for, strange behaviors in animals that just don't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
Creatures that move with an eerie purpose, stare with glowing eyes, or behave in ways so unnatural. Even in human form, flesh pedestrians are said to move in twisted, unnatural ways. Their motions wrong in a way, their eye contact, you can't really explain it, but it's just like everything about them is just like not right.
Right.
Their presence is often felt before it's seen, bringing with it a heavy dread and overwhelming sense that something nearby is deeply, dangerously wrong.
See, this makes me think they're not that different from the not deer.
No, they're not. And I know we did kind of touch on that, like the not deer. Whether the not deer are just a flesh pedestrian and they're not just a own thing of itself would make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, what are your feelings? So I'm going to let you take the stage and I'm going to let you do your little bit of a presentation, because I'm going to be honest, there isn't much more about flesh pedestrians than what we kind of just went over. So this is a great time for you to kind of go into whatever you'd like to before
I kind of teased it last week, but
you did.
Here's why I asked you. So last week I asked you if you found anything in your research of the draining of people's energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have heard that about wendigos, but I've also heard that about flesh pedestrians, which you also just stated. It makes people sick. It makes them worn down, this and that. So there's also a couple things that you've mentioned across both episodes, which are very similar.
Yep.
Right. So don't look at the Wendy boy, right? It'll lure you outside. But this one, if you see it, it kind of has that same psychic control.
Yep.
I can't remember. I'm so sorry in this episode if you've mentioned it yet. But one of the things, at least in the Appalachian version of the flesh pedestrian, is a high chance of mimicry, right? Don't go into the woods if you hear somebody screaming your name, somebody who sounds familiar. But we talked about that with...
Yep, the Wendy boy.
The Wendy boy. The other thing is the closing of the blinds, right? You don't look outside in areas where both of these reside. So there's a lot of similarity between the two.
And I think that's why they get mixed up.
And it's like, look at the animals they take on are different enough. But if we add in the not deer of it, right? It's all these like 4-legged creatures.
You're talking about flesh pedestrians right now.
Flesh pedestrians to the not deer, right?
Mm-hmm.
To now the Wendigo. I'm trying so hard not to say them. Some of the representations of the Wendigo, while it looks like they walk in uprights, their front, like, even though they're like mostly bipedal,
they like
have very
an upright deer.
long front arms that they can almost creep along the ground with. One of the things that's been going through my head as we've been going through both of these episodes, I kind of go back to when Sam was on the show, and he was talking about how certain things appear differently for how you can best have it. And so one of my thoughts, and I'm not sold on this, right? But just a point for us to jump off on is, are these 2 or even the 3 things all the same type of entity that is appearing differently for different people? Or do we have something, because both of them, right, both the lore is similar. It's somebody who has taken their course off, or their path has gone off the course, and they've either become a cannibal or they were going to be a healer and they went this wrong way. Like, is this entire phenomena the embodiment of when somebody has a choice between good and evil, and now their spirit's gone evil? And is it that spirit that lives on that now has the ability to take on these things? And maybe it looks a little different. Maybe, I'm not saying they have to be the same thing, but there's enough similarity between them that I don't always think we're talking about like the difference between a turtle, a deer, and a duck, right? Whether it's like 3 things of the same species or genus. I don't know.
Okay.
I just think it's really interesting to play off that. So what are your thoughts? I've talked forever.
Let me try to maybe easierly, oh my God, articulate what you're saying. To me, it's like how so many people speak a different language. We all speak a different language, but come to the same conclusion when we're having a conversation with somebody that is speaking that same language. But if you were to, for example, like Arabic, if you were to translate a sentence that we say into Arabic, it doesn't correlate correctly.
The context gets very
correct. It's like it's not exactly the same.
It reminds me of like multiple choice. 2 answers could be correct, but pick the one that seems the most correct when you're doing these
So I think that I do agree with you, right? Because we were talking about Algonquin tribes and Navajo, so separate.
Yeah.
But they are experiencing some of the same phenomenon, entity. I don't know what is less. I don't want to offend anybody, but we're experiencing these same things, right? Or not same, but similar things. So is it almost like a language where it's because it's like different? Wow.
No, you're literally on the right track. Right? No, you're doing very well on it. It's
yeah,
a difference in language, or is it a difference in idea?
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying it's because of the language. I'm just trying to articulate that to make it make sense to what we're talking about. Like, these are 2 very different tribes and very different beliefs.
Into a philosophical discussion of what comes first, language or thought. Right? So I don't think you're being offensive by saying language, because the words you use change the way you think about something. So if we're talking about people who have 2 different languages, it could be totally similar. It could be different. And you and I aren't educated in language and etymology enough to know, but it's just an interesting thought experiment on the 2.
Again, like I kind of said at the last episode, we are not trying to offend anybody. And to be completely fair, we don't know what we're talking about. We can dive into so many articles and books and facts and things like that about these different tribes and their cultures and their beliefs and their spirituality, but we will never have the right to know and understand it the way that they do, because It is just such a true belief to them, and like a religion, and it's just, spirituality is so magical to the person that believes in it. So we don't have the right to really know everything. But my biggest takeaways from doing this research, and it's, it sounds very simple, but my biggest takeaways are, a Wendigo is brought from like greed and gluttony, right? And basically was pushed to the extreme, I don't even know, madness or whatever, that should have never been. And it was brought to the point where they had to either eat somebody else, like a cannibal, they become a cannibal and then became that creature.
Your traits have taken you so far off of human, you become
Correct.
a monster.
And then once you're there, then you can bring other people into that misery. So that's that, right? So it's based on cannibalism. And the flesh pedestrian is basically, like you were saying, in a nutshell, the good and the evil. You were a practitioner of good. You were a medicine man. You were like these high looked upon people, and you got too full of it, and the magic took over too much, basically. And then you took the dark route, and then you became this dark entity. So again, it's kind of like that good and evil, but is it like, it is very different when you look at it that way, because it's...
I think you can look at that differently, but I think you can also look at that similarly. Good and evil. Like, not even just like the practice of it became evil for the witch to turn to the pedestrian, the fleshy pedestrian. But you can also talk about it as somebody who's giving into their, like, both of them have given into some sort of power or carnal desire where they've lost their humanity along the way.
Yeah.
So like it can be very different, but it also can be very similar.
No, I agree. I agree.
I don't know enough about either of them to say they're the same thing or different. I just think it's an interesting debate to have, to say, hey, these things might not be as diametrically opposed as they're presented to be.
No, and I agree. And that's really why I wanted to do the episode combining them, and not combining, but the differences between the two, because I think that they are so vastly different, but also very similar, where people do confuse them, or not maybe like they're just like, wait, which one is that? Or what does it do again?
Yeah.
Or like, what's the characteristics, things like that. So I agree. It's just like fascinating. And again, I think it's just like the difference in the tribes and the culture. And it just, again, like we said last episode or last week, supernatural it'll never be fully understood. It's always ever changing or ever developing. Like, we can never be experts, I don't feel, in anything like this, because we just will never actually know. But even in like the last episode, I think it's like, lean into the elders, the ones that are, I guess, oh my God, my brain just left my body. I swear to God, my brain left my body. Lean into the people that do know what they're talking about and that are a part of these types of things. Like, if you did really need help, because I think those would be the only people that you could ever trust and rely on if you really needed anything about these two.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
And feel free to discount this if you have more to go on. But I think we kind of teased everyone last week, or now I'm confused if it was last week or just earlier this episode, where we both feel like we've had experiences with them.
That was this episode.
You want to share? Yeah, that was the beginning of this episode. Do you want to share yours?
I think probably over a year ago, I have said not the word of what I saw, but that I had a really crazy experience and I did not want to talk about it. I still don't even know if I want to talk about it, because I don't know where that thing is, but it was definitely one of these, not the other.
Okay.
And the reason that I say that is because it was pretty much that creepy fucking all fours U-shaped weird thing that I described. And if we are saying that that is a flesh pedestrian, that is fucking what I saw. And I've kind of showed Zach where it was, but I was just driving home from work. It was like got really late. So it was dark out. I mean, there are street lights, but it was just like on a street, but it was kind of like where that cemetery is, but not quite there. And I was at a stop sign, and then I was like turning, and I like look in my rearview mirror, and it was in the road, just in the middle of the fucking road. And I knew instantly what it was. I literally just said to myself, like, clear your mind. No fucking way. Nope, it's not. Like, I knew it was there. I wasn't telling myself it wasn't there, but I was telling myself that I am not going to acknowledge it and give it any of my thought, presence, being, whatever. I just remember, like, I looked at it in my side mirror one more time, because I'm like, am I nuts? Nope. And then I just looked forward and I kept driving home, because at that point, where that stop sign is from where my house is, it's like,
you're not far. You could do it with your eyes closed. Oh,
I could. So I just like, I never looked back at any of my mirrors. I just kept going, and I just was like, and then I pulled in my driveway, shut the door, and came right inside. And I don't even think like I told you till a couple of days later, because I did not want to give it any sort of acknowledgement at all. And that's that.
So I've had 2, and they were very close together.
And you think they were flesh? Or you're not quite sure.
I've always put them in the camp of the flesh ped, but I the first story to me.
Tell us, and then we'll discuss.
The first one, I was driving with a really close friend of mine, and I've mentioned them on this podcast. I just don't know if I should in this story. We were driving up north Michigan, total dogman country, which, again, another thing that is very similar to the story of the flesh pedestrians. But in the culvert of a road. Okay. There were eyes that hit the headlights that glowed like kind of like a deer's would, right?
Okay.
Like, you know how a deer's eyes glow at night?
Or any animal.
So
Delilah's look crazy.
Right. Any animal. It was about deer height, though. But then it went down a foot and up a foot from each place. So it was like almost like it was like hopping up and down for a second.
Oh.
As we got closer to it, it went from that, 3 to 4 foot where it's kind of going back and forth to all of a sudden human height and bright glowing. And we sped down the road. We're like, out of here. I don't know what that was. I'm not sticking around to find out what that was. Well, we used to camp back in that same area. And this is one of those things where in high school you go camping and you know what we were all doing back in the woods.
Yeah.
We were partying our asses off. And
I like how you said it like we all know what we're doing, like we don't need to say, and then you're like, we were partying our asses off.
Whatever. I'm far beyond the statute of limitations. Mom,
know,
sorry if you're mad. You knew what I was doing.
Hey, Denise.
It's been a while since we had a Hey Denise. Hey Denise. Mom. So
Mommy.
no.
Mommy.
She would slap me, I feel like, if I called her mommy.
She'd slap me.
I mean, she would just slap you for... No, I'm kidding. But the other story, so we're all in the woods. Okay, there was this girl who became the butt of the jokes that evening.
Okay, wait, this is not the same day?
Not the same day.
Okay.
Same general area.
Okay.
She was kind of like an acquaintance, not a friend. She had way too much water in the woods. And...
Way too much water in the woods?
She was just drunk as hell.
Oh, I've never heard that. Way too much water in the woods?
I just made that up off my head.
Oh.
I was trying to be euphemistic, but you didn't pick it up. So anyways, though, she kept saying she kept seeing this creature, and we're like, okay, well, it's probably like a deer or whatever, or a dog. I keep saying a mountain lion.
You're like, you're a drunk, dumb bitch.
Pretty much. I mean, we called her DG all night for drunk girl.
Oh. That's nice.
It wasn't until we all heard her scream in the woods where we're like, okay, somebody's got to go get her. Let's go. Like, we took all the flashlights.
You're all like, oh, God.
We're going, and she comes behind us who had passed out and goes, what are you guys looking for? We're like, you.
No,
and then the mountain lion that she kept saying she saw went by us right where we had heard her specifically scream.
Oh.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable at best.
It just walked by you guys?
When I say walked by, it was like 50 yards off, but down by the creek, but it was like straight where we heard her scream. Now, all night she kept saying she was seeing a mountain lion. We're like, girl, you're not seeing a mountain lion. Whatever. Then we believed her. We all slept in the cars that night instead of in the tents. But
so when you say you believed her at that moment, did you just believe that, like, oh yeah, she saw that mountain lion, or did you believe that?
So all night she kept
weird?
saying. So every time she went to use the bathroom, she kept saying she was seeing a mountain lion. We're like, we've been camping out here for years. We've never seen one. Now we know they're in the area,
right?
But for some reason, she kept seeing this thing where like we hadn't. So then we hear her scream later.
Well.
We think she sees it again. We go to find her. She comes up behind us going, what are you guys doing? Like, we just heard you screaming in the woods. And then we saw that thing move off.
But what I'm saying is, or what I'm asking is, at that moment, were you like, oh, fuck, something weird's going on? Or did you just believe that, like, oh shit, there is a mountain lion?
I think it was the first of all, oh shit, there is a mountain lion, because that's what we saw. Right. And we're like, everyone get back to camp. We have to take care of that. And then it's like when you get back and your adrenaline wears off, you're like, we all went, why was she behind us? Like,
yeah, okay. That's what I was wondering. In the moment, did you realize that part, or like
there were other times where we were out camping that same spot which is very, very, I mean, we were 16, 17. We were making sure we were going where the cops couldn't find us.
Yeah, so you're deep. Roads
to 2 tracks to a single track off the 2 I mean, we were 10 miles from civilization. But every once in a while, you'd hear the random, just these weird screams and things out there. It was a very unsettling area.
Ew.
Yeah. And also not that far from where I could tell you some other really horrifying native stories, but
that's not for today.
Yeah, no, I think this is enough for today on horrifying, but I don't know. I think it's really interesting in the fact, though, that these all come from like humans turning into something. So another thought that crossed my mind, right, is like, right. So we have the witch who succumbs to this, and we have the
practitioner
person with carnal desires
that becomes a witch.
Practitioner who becomes the witch, or we have the person who gives into their carnal desires of greed and gluttony, and everything sort of has both a human, animal, spirit aspect to it. The other thing I start to think of is, are these evil entities that exist on the planet, whether they're elemental, demonic, whatever you want to call it, whatever your belief system is, and when they find somebody who is susceptible and going down a dark path, now they have a physical form they can take on. So they have that spiritual element, they have that corporeal element, and maybe the differences we're seeing in them come from the body of which they possess.
Yeah, because I think that it's like, does each of us have this Wendy boy flesh pedestrian inside of us, just waiting to like be brought forth?
A little bit different than what I was saying. Like, I thought maybe we'd like show up to them and say, oh, hey, this is a host. But that's interesting too. Maybe it is something internal.
And I've thought of it both ways, because it's like, if you're thinking about it in the sense of like a deeper meaning and a message, those messages are kind of the same, kind of like what we're talking about, right? So it's either like you're forced to do the cannibalism type of thing and then maybe keep possessing on that to others. And then in this instance, you're brought to have all of these like powers and like this healing, and then you get too greedy about it and you turn it to the dark side. So it's like, are these two things always deep in us that like are just kind of festering? Like the evil's just deep in there and it could be brought out. It could be tempted out by these types of temptations. I don't know.
I think we're gonna also, can I tease something a little bit?
Sure.
And I hope I gave you enough information when I was telling you about this thing I'm teasing that it would make sense. But I think we're going to have a really unique discussion in the next couple months. We're waiting for timelines to meet up.
Okay.
Where you and I, we've talked about UFOs, aliens, cryptids, all these things, right? And you and I have hit on the fact that a lot of recently, like Bigfoot and what we call aliens might have a relation. And we're talking about how these things might have a relation. I think we're about to have a really unique conversation about magic with a K and some other things, how they're interrelated. And I think so much of the high strange we experience on this planet could be more interrelated with each other than we originally give it credit for.
I do think that you and I have recently leaned into that theory already.
And which is so funny that this conversation we're going to have popped up super randomly at the time where you and I are going through this transformation and thought.
I'm excited.
Yeah. And that's all I'll say on that. Sorry, guys. We're teasing a lot this year, but we are working on some shit.
My final little question in this part of the discussion, and then let's move on, is after doing this research, and then after you hearing some of this, are you more afraid of these two things or less afraid than you were before we started?
I will say I'm actually, before I answer that.
Or maybe afraid is not the right word. But
I'll answer that. I think before I say that, though, is I think you actually gave me a little bit more clarity on the Wendy boys than I had on what the differences are. I think the flesh pedestrians really creep me out. There's just something so unsettling about the whole thing, and having thinking that I've experienced it more than once, where that truly scares me. I think maybe the Wendy boy I'm a little less of.
Okay.
But I think the one thing I can say is, as we've gone through the journey we have for the past couple of years, is I have a lot more respect for them, both the culture they come from and them themselves, than I ever would have had we not gotten into some of this research.
Yes. So what I would say is that I am less afraid or bothered by the subject matter of them. I still don't want to speak their, true forms or true names, because I don't want to call that upon myself. But I'm less bothered by both of them. I do still think that deep down, they're terrifying things. Mm-hmm. And I never want to experience one. That's not what I'm saying. But I do think that, like you just said, the respect of it and really understanding like where it comes from.
Yeah.
And really just being true to yourself and knowing that I am not going to partake in these types of things. I'm going to respect nature, respect these tribes, respect these spiritualities, and it's not my business.
And I think that can be said about like whether you, and if you're listening to this, let's be honest, you believe in all this kind of shit. But whether you believe in high strange shit or not, right? Anything you see as a threat, the more you can educate yourself about the threat, the less power it holds over you.
Knowledge is power.
What was the other thing you said? Was wisdom before weapons? Also, make sure you print out Kara's little handy dandy survival cheat sheet. I think, you know what? We said on the last episode that we might put it on Patreon. I think let's just put it on all the socials. Everyone deserves some safety.
Well, then moving forward, I have a field guide on how to survive a Skinwalker encounter.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
I didn't even mean to segue you that perfectly. Gosh.
Segue. Sagoo. People really think that the word is sagoo instead of segue.
Honestly, I love you so much, but knowing your pronunciation of things, I wouldn't be surprised if you said that one.
That is not me. All right. Starting over. Field guide, how to survive a Skinwalker encounter. Drawn from legend, shadow, and centuries of caution. Number 1, trust your gut. If you feel like something is watching you or the forest suddenly goes silent, listen to your instincts. Skinwalkers often arrive unannounced, but your body will feel their presence before your eyes ever do. The air gets heavier, your skin prickles, your stomach knots. When your soul recoils before your senses catch up, leave quickly.
Okay.
Number 2, never wander alone at night. Skinwalkers prey on the ice. I probably shouldn't have cried in the woods. Them deers were not deers.
It wasn't night.
It was.
Oh, was it dark?
Yeah.
Idiot.
Number 2, never wander alone at night. They prey on the isolated and unaware. Always stay in a group, especially near forests, deserts, or reservations where these beings are said to roam. Don't chase strange sounds. Don't follow voices calling your name.
Never. Sorry, that is just like the number 1.
And this one, Zachary needs to get better at. Never whistle in the dark at night. It's an invitation. Mr. Let me whistle in a haunted asylum at night.
When did I do that?
You did that at Eloise. You started whistling in the hallway when we were walking. And I said, I swear to God.
Oh, yeah, I did.
I will kill you. Number 3. Watch.
We were inside. They can't come in man-made objects. We went over that.
It doesn't matter. Other spirits and entities are drawn by... It's a known fact. You don't whistle at night. They could have just been standing outside waiting for us to leave the building.
I'm trying so hard not to whistle right now.
Number 3, watch the animals. If an animal seems off, too still, staring too long, moving oddly in glowing eyes, or an uncanny silence, do not approach. Flesh pedestrians can take the shape of wolves, foxes, owls, coyotes, even your beloved pet. It wears the shape of what you trust. Delilah.
On that note, I also don't usually believe all those like videos you see on social media of, ooh, I caught a skinwalker. Ooh, I caught this or that. There's this one. Have you seen?
I know exactly what it is. The goat?
No, it's the dog. The goat at the door is one. I know which one you're talking about. Yep. But then there's a dog that as it goes behind a light post completely changes. And I have watched that so many times to see where the cut is or what. I can't figure it out. That one to me is one of the most horrifying videos.
Have you seen the dog, though, that's literally at the back door, like is waiting to be let in, but his actual dog is on the couch next to him?
Yes. I feel like I've seen all three of those like on the same cut of like, oh.
All right, number 4, protective measures. While you can't kill a flesh pedestrian easily, you can keep it at bay. Burn sage, cedar, and sweetgrass, sacred plants known for spiritual protection. Use ash circles for temporary wards. Wear blessed tokens or medicine bags made by trusted healers. Stay near strong fires. Flesh pedestrians prefer shadow and silence. 5, avoid speaking the name. Talking openly about flesh pedestrians, especially at night, fuck our lives, we're at night, is considered dangerous in Navajo culture. Naming them invites them in. The wind listens, the dark remembers. Number 6.
Chilling.
I know. Number 6. What not to do. Don't stare into their eyes. They take control of your mind. Don't try to fight one alone. Unless you are protected spiritually, you're already at disadvantage. Don't take souvenirs from cursed places. Bones, feathers, or strange artifacts may be traps. 7. When it's too late, if one has chosen you, tell somebody who can help, a medicine person, a spiritual guide, or an elder. Hold your ground, but never engage it in anger. Speak prayers and burn sacred herbs. And if you can, leave the area and don't return.
Bum, bum, bum.
Final words. Flesh pedestrians aren't just stories. They're warnings passed down through generations. Whether you believe or not, respect the tales. The desert doesn't lie, and neither do the old ones. To survive the night, honor the light, and never forget you're not alone out there.
God, again, these feel like it's taken straight out of Game of Thrones.
All right, I know we're getting close. I didn't think this one was going to be that long, but we had such a great discussion.
Sorry, I know I talked.
No, it's okay. We love it. I do have an encounter.
Okay.
To wrap us up. And this one is from personal-paloma8703. I am 25 male. I live in Utah, and I am curious if any of you have seen anything like this before. I'm pretty sure I saw a windy boy or a flesh pedestrian. I know it sounds strange or crazy. I don't really believe in those things, and I'm regularly skeptical when it comes to the paranormal. What happened to me is when I was 17 and in high school and living with my parents. My house at the time was in a very small town. The backyard faced open, empty fields and mountains for miles before you reached another civilization at all. My best friend lived next door and shared this field as our backyard in a way. I have to explain that he wrote that wrong, built on a different street that ended in a field with a small cul-de-sac. I think there was supposed to be more houses built down his street to be expanded to a town, but that clearly never happened. So his driveway was basically in the cul-de-sac, even though no other houses were built there. This matters later in the story. I used to stay the night at my friend's house a lot in high school because I didn't have the best relationship with my parents. Every once in a while, we would wake up to hear dragging and weird gargling sound from the back porch.
Ooh.
His room was a basement room with the window well to the back porch. It would happen maybe a couple times a month, but whenever we would gather the courage to check, nothing would be back there. This happened for years. Ew. Gargling is disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
One night haunts my friend and I to this day. My friend was getting ready to move, and we stayed up all night playing games and watching movies. We decided to go on a music drive just to vibe. So we hopped in his truck with high beams and swung out the driveway, turning them towards the fields to use the roundabout. The light illuminated this thing. It looked like a person, but it wasn't. It was naked on all fours, abnormally large, particularly its limbs that seemed to fold under itself in an unnatural way. Its pale skin clung to it like it had been stretched onto it. But the part that still sends shivers down my spine is its face. Its jaw hung open to this gasping black maw, like a snake unhinging its jaw to eat, which this is way more flesh pedestrian than Wendy. Its black eyes glistened in the light as it looked at us. But just as it turned to see us, it quickly scurried backwards, almost like it was on rewind into the brush of the field. That is the most disturbing shit on rewind.
The mental image that comes to mind, did you ever see Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth?
No.
The creature at the buffet with like the eyes that looks like Mitch McConnell sort of, but with skin hanging. Ugh.
My friend and I were pale as ghosts. We both looked at each other like, did we just see that too? Did you just see that too? We were shaken. Let's just say we tried to have a good rest of the night, but we couldn't believe what we saw. We ended up just sitting there in his basement with guns, ready and waiting to hear the gargling and dragging again, but we never did. Sorry that's not too climactic, but it's the truth. I now don't live in that town anymore. There are times when I visit there, though, the empty field still feels like it's watching and waiting. Even though I can't see it, I can still feel like it's out there. All right. Do you have anything to add to that story? Your face is just disgust.
No, I think that is a perfect story to sum up how terrifying these things that we're talking about are.
So we're just going to recap really quickly from last week. Recap. We're going to just recap this crap. Okay. So we're going to give a very quick comparison. Okay. So Wendigo, origin, cursed by cannibalism. Flesh pedestrian is, chose evil through ritual. The nature basically of the Wendigo, monster, cursed, or spirit. Flesh pedestrian is human, witch with dark powers. Form, Wendigo is the gaunt, monstrous, like beastly thing. Flesh pedestrian shifts between animal and human. Behavior of the Wendigo feeds on flesh. Mindless hunger. Flesh pedestrian, manipulation, deceives, curses. And then the symbolism of our Wendigo is, greed, starvation, colonial trauma, flesh pedestrian, betrayal, and then spiritual corruption.
Okay, I'm not going to open this up for a whole nother discussion. I'm just going to leave you with a few seconds on this. Agree or disagree.
You could go.
Maybe we get them so confused sometimes because if the deceit and manipulation and everything is so much of the flesh pedestrian, I wonder if sometimes they front as the other.
Oh. Well, I can print this little comparison too, so that you can have it.
We need the comparisons. We need the survival guides. Everyone keep this with you. We're going to slowly throughout these episodes start to build you a cryptid survival kit that we teased years ago.
We could, and it could kind of be like our grimoire of every
There we go.
Oh my God. What if we came up with an oddity shop grimoire and guides and safety things?
Okay, you know what? That's our call to action on this episode. If you have stories, we'll take them. But our biggest thing you could do from us is let us know if you would be interested in the Oddity Shop survival guide grimoire. Oh, yes. I love that idea.
This would be so fun. It's going to take a lot of work.
It's okay. Once we finish the 15 other projects and surprises that we have going, we could start on that one.
Okay. If you guys would actually want that, then let us know, because otherwise I'm not going to waste my time. I'll make it for you and I, but I'm not going to make it
enough.
Good.
All right.
So I will leave us with an incantation to hopefully cleanse us from last week, this week craziness.
Perfect.
I'm going to go be completely honest. I couldn't find an incantation that would make I couldn't find one for both of these things. So ChatGPT collectively with everything that I put all my research in, and then it just made
magic
one for me.
Straight from ChatGPT. Here we go.
I'm so against them taking over the world, but it is what it is.
Lean in, baby.
Here we go. Spirits of the land, hear me now. I stand beneath the sky, feet in the soil, with smoke of cedar, sage, and pine. I call to the ancestors, those who walk in light. Wendigo of hunger, pass me by. Skinwalker of shadow, be unbound. The space is sealed with breath of flame, with truth in heart and no fear in name. You hold no power where strength is born. You cannot hide where vision is sworn. By the howl of the wolf, by the cry of the crow, by fire's edge and moonlight's glow, be gone, and trouble no more. The circle is strong. This spirit is whole.
Okay, first of all, that was amazing.
I know.
Second, I don't care if it partly came from ChatGPT, because you and I both know that the biggest power of magic is not the words you're saying, but the intention behind it. So I'm sorry that we have mentioned both these things by name so many times, but at least you have a little protection incantation. So I would say rewind that, turn your speakers either outside of your headphones or all the way up, and play it one more time just to protect yourself, because we don't need any shit on our hands.
No, and you should redo it, because when you redo it, pause before, take a deep breath, really put your intentions into it, like you're really believing it, let it replay, and it'll be a perfectly smooth, great incantation for everybody.
First of all, great job, dude.
Maybe I'll record it again once just to send everybody. Okay. Well, thank you guys for tuning in for the second episode of this
2 weeks of utter horror. Let's go.
Horror, terrifyingness. I'm going to keep it short. Oh, what should this emoji be? Well, I guess you could let's just do like a wolf, a bear, like an animal, because it shapeshifts. Okay. We love you so much. Thank you so much for being here through all of this horrifyingness. Yeah, that's really all I have for you, aside from creepy real yad balls.
Goodbye.
Bye.